Oh, sweet. I should probably play the music.
This is The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Here we go. Awesome. Good morning, Tuscaloosa. Good morning, Tuscaloosa, Internet world, West Alabama. How are we doing today on a Wednesday? Happy Hump Day. Hope you and yours are doing well. It's the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral, BamaCentral.com. We're having a great day. We're finally back in the Derek Daniel State Farm Studios. What a week it has been. We appreciate Derek Daniel for hosting the program. Call him today for all of your insurance needs at 205-758-3391. Like a good neighbor, Derek Daniel is there. Appreciate him sponsoring the program. We appreciate everybody who's watching us on the Bama Central YouTube channel, Bama Central Facebook page. You can check us out on Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can find the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central. We're here with our man Theo Fernandez. Follow him at Theo Fernandez __ on the Twitter machine. You can find him writing all things Alabama athletics, but specifically Alabama baseball. Crimson Tide coming up. Did you lose count last night? 16-2. Is that what it's 16-1?
That was just a fun game there. 2 hours, 19 minutes. Shortest game of the season. Man, that was a good time.
Shortest game of the year for 16 runs? Efficient.
This Alabama team does not play many short baseball games.
There we go. That's incredible. As they got another victory last night, beating Samford. We'll check in with Theo about that here today. We appreciate it. Purple Turtle Roofing for sponsoring the program. You can call Purple Turtle Roofing for all of your roofing needs at 877-787-6635. Visit them online at roofturtle.com today. You can check out all of their products and services. We appreciate them hanging out and sponsoring the program. We encourage you to call them today for your free roof inspection to get the peace of mind that you deserve. We're going to have Katie Windham join us in just a little bit. She's going to be jumping on about 4, 5, 6 minutes from now, and she's going to talk about Alabama softball as they also won last night. A big old run rule victory, 8-0 last night. So they stayed hot, carrying over from their victory over number 1 Texas, beating Texas 2-1 here in Rhodes Stadium over the weekend. So we'll hear her perspective on Alabama softball. I want to get her perspective on spring football. I know my man Everett Osmer has a voicemail for her asking about women's basketball, the women's basketball coach. So we will play that for her. He has been so patient. I appreciate you, Everett, for sending that in there last week and then waiting on the right time for me to play that. So I appreciate him doing that. Theo, you excited? Hang on, Katie. It's been a couple weeks to talk to since we've talked to her.
Yeah, and the viewership numbers tend to, I feel like, go up a little bit when she hops on the show, right?
Well, smarter, wiser, more mature, better looking. Every box that you could ask for, Katie just checks, and so she elevates the show.
Always need more ball knowledge on this show, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Theo, we had a little time in the Malmore Athletic Facility yesterday, watching some practice, and then we heard from Red Morgan and Jackson Lloyd. You can see that on the Bama Central YouTube channel. We're gonna have a lot of fun. Theo, before we get Katie in here, where's the excitement level for A-Day? Are people excited? Are they coming? I know Dax is. Dax is called. He's coming. It's not going to be on TV, so that should help the in-person attendance. It just doesn't seem like there's much buzz for Alabama A-Day right now.
There certainly is no buzz around campus.
It's because the baseball and softball team are dominating, right?
Yeah. Why would you waste time with football when you've got 2 national title contenders right there? Right? But no, I mean, on campus, there's really no excitement. I've talked about it with kids in a bunch of my classes and just friends and stuff, and nobody seems to be all that interested in going. And even with, something interesting to watch with the 2 quarterbacks, right? I would have thought there'd be a little more interest in it. I keep hearing everyone talk about like they don't want they don't like how packed the town gets, and everyone's talking about A-Day and Morgan Wallen back to back and how Tuscaloosa is just going to be insufferable and hard to move around. I think when push comes to shove, though, and you hit 1 o'clock on Saturday. You hit 12:30 on Saturday. People are gonna want to go watch free football in Bryant-Denny Stadium, at least for those that are already in Tuscaloosa.
If you're already here, then I don't know. If you're already here and you don't have, son, daughter, ball field day, right? Young middle school daughter doing softball, middle school son doing baseball, you're out in the ball fields, you're obligated. If you don't have that, then there's really no reason why you shouldn't come. I'm pulling up the weather right now. Let's see it. Zero reason why you shouldn't come. Weather in Tuscaloosa, high of 85 on Saturday, low of 55. So it's not going to get too hot, not going to be too cold. Wind gust of 6 miles an hour, very low precipitation. So no chance of rain at all. It's going to be a picture perfect day. My friend Hunter Johnson calls it a Chamber of Commerce day in Tuscaloosa, because people get out and spend money and enjoy them. So it's gonna be a perfect day. I just wonder, I just haven't had a lot of. Usually, even the people that watch the show, they'll message me about different things. They'll shoot me comments about different things. I haven't had one single comment outside of the Dax voicemail yesterday about 8A at all. Not from friends, not from family, not from coworkers. I mean, coworkers, yes, because we've talked about what do we think it's going to be, but people who should be the fans. I don't feel the excitement.
The one thought that I was having is that maybe last year showed some fans that, okay, maybe I don't need to go watch the spring football game every year, because a lot of people didn't do it last year. A lot of people that had done it their whole lives, right? Just about, that didn't show up last year. Maybe that was enough for them to say, you know what, I don't need to spend my Saturday doing this anymore. I don't know. That's just pure speculation.
Yeah, no, I think there's something to that, because you've had the erosion of the spring game for, oh my goodness, when was 2007, 8 when Nick Saban came to town. So you've been going on you've been on about a 15-year erosion from that excitement level in the last 2 years, especially. Last year, we've already talked about it ad nauseum with the not being a game, and the year before being a competition, yes, but not being a game, being offense versus defense. Going back to that, I just wonder if you're going to see a more digestible product. If you're are they going to move the football up and down the field? Or are you just going to slap the ball on the 50 and just run plays on the 50 throughout the entire afternoon? I'm just wondering what the crowd is going to be like, because you barely had 20,000 last year, which I understand. But you were right at that 20,000 threshold, maybe even way under. Will the lower bowl be full on Saturday, Theo?
75%.
That would be good to me.
I agree.
I think that would be if you can get 75% in the lower bowl, you're cooking with gas right there.
I think you're happy with that.
Yeah, I think so too. So what will be the most common overreaction? Because we talked about it yesterday being ripe for overreaction. What will be the most common overreaction? Will it be Keelan Russell, Heisman Trophy winner? Is that going to be the lowest hanging fruit that everybody's going to go to? We're all going to roll our eyes at?
Yeah, I think it'll be something about the quarterbacks, right? Probably Keelan Russell makes a really nice throw. Austin Mack is going to lose 8A.
No,
if we're being honest, just because
can he win 8A?
He can win 8A, but by
no intercept.
No, I don't know, because I feel like him winning 8A still involves a version of,
because he's got to smoke Keelan.
Yeah, and I think part of that needs to be Keelan making a lot of mistakes, right? I think Austin Mack doesn't even control his own destiny to win 8A, which isn't a fault on him. It's just, it's Keelan. Everyone's excited to watch him throw the football. I also think we'll have some overreactions with Ryan. I think he goes and makes a bunch of nice catches, and everyone's fully back in the Ryan Williams train. And, he's catching with his hands. He's a leader. I think everyone's ready to love Ryan Williams again. So I think that'll be one of the more positive
Coleman Williams.
Ryan
We're going to make
Coleman
that
Williams.
muscle memory. We're almost going to get Katie Windham in, and she's getting settled in the back end. But I do want to mention Cam's comment is exactly right. Cam Metzger joins us on Facebook most mornings, and he comments, I think a lot of people are upset that it will not be televised. Not everyone can make that trip. I used to be excited every year to watch. I mean, exactly. If you're not in Tuscaloosa, are you going to make a special trip for it? I don't think you are. And if you're not in Tuscaloosa and it's not televised, you're like, well, I'll just read what the bloggers have to say. Because it used to be you could go to ESPN Plus or SEC Network Plus or whatever it is and record it, and you can be out at the ball fields at wherever you are. And then Saturday night when the kids are in bed, you can slap on 8A and watch the game.
Why isn't it televised?
Because why would you?
Is it an Alabama decision? We don't want it televised, or is it ESPN?
I do not have the answer to that. I would assume a little bit of both.
I absolutely struggle to believe that ESPN isn't going to outperform whatever else they decide to throw on their TV with anything Alabama football related.
Well, the last few years it's been on the app, basically on the Plus app, and I just don't know that if it's worth sending a crew, setting up a broadcast. Now, maybe it is. I mean, Cam wants to watch it, and there's a lot of people like Cam. Maybe it is, but I think ESPN's my guess is that ESPN's probably determined, not worth our time anymore. They're not doing a real game.
I don't put much stock in ESPN's decision making with how most of their stuff ends up going, but I don't think that's a good decision just at face value.
Well, I'll probably stand with you. Yeah, for football, put it on TV, right? All right, let's turn our attention to Katie Windham and have a lot of fun today. Get all the make the program a whole lot smarter. You can follow Katie Windham at Katie Windham _ on the Twitter machine. Lead writer for BamaCentral.com, leading our coverage for spring football, for softball, for basketball. Was all the way up in Chicago and Tampa and Nashville over the last couple of weeks. Leading our coverage for women's basketball, was at the women's basketball introduction of the new basketball coach. So it really handling all things. Wrapping up the gymnastics season as well. You follow her at Katie Windham _ and it's been a couple of weeks since we've had her on. Good morning, Katie. Thank you for your time. How are you? Are you feeling rested and recovered now that the men's basketball season has concluded?
Good morning, guys. Yeah, I'm definitely a little bit. It was a lot of, just hearing you say Nashville, Tampa, Chicago, that was a lot of back-to-back travel. But yeah, it's nice to be in town for a little bit for sure.
Okay, why don't I start you with where we just left with Theo. Are you excited for 8A? What is the excitement level for 8A? You've got a lot of Alabama friends and coworkers and colleagues and family. Are the people in your circle excited for 8A this weekend?
I would say most people in my circle are probably not even aware 8A is happening this weekend. Most of my friends and family have never really cared about 8A. I personally am excited about it as media this weekend because I feel like this spring, which part of it was traveling with basketball so much and being gone, but I feel like this spring is been the biggest nothing burger media-wise, since I've been on the beat. As far as what do I know about this team? Not much. So at least Saturday, no matter how much of a semblance of a scrimmage they actually do, there will have to be one quarterback they send out there first. There will have to be some semblance of an offensive line. We will learn more on Saturday alone, I think, than we've learned this entire spring. So I'm looking forward to seeing this team in action. It was kind of funny, in the drills yesterday, the little bit of practice we got to watch, they would have 3 quarterbacks throwing simultaneously. They're like, we're not even going to give y'all an order of what we could possibly be thinking that you could twist and turn. It's well, somebody will have to go out there first on Saturday. And does that mean that person's winning the job? Or probably means that they're in the lead right now, but doesn't necessarily mean they will have it won in the fall. But it'll give us something. So I'm looking forward to being in there on Saturday. It'll be an interesting setup with the press box renovation. So we'll be out there with everyone else somewhere in the stands. I don't think they've sent us details of where yet. So yeah, it'll be an interesting coverage experience. I hope we're not directly in the sun trying to see our screens. Surely they won't do that to us, right? But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
So you're telling me, Katie, that Ryan Grubb is not going to debut a 2 quarterback formation on Saturday?
I mean, honestly, I say they're going to roll out one. They could, the very first play, they could have Mack and Russell out there on the field just to say, hey, we started both of them.
Yeah, one hands off to the other, then throws back to the other, then that person actually throws the ball down the field, and that's going to be the starter.
What if they just start Jet Tamala?
Hey,
that solves all your problems.
Start Jet Tamala, or start Kevin Riley, Wildcat quarterback. Wildcat. Well, Katie, I agree with you. I think that the spring has been difficult to really get underneath the hood and find out what's going on with this team this year. But what do you think? I'll ask you what I just asked Thea. What will be the major overreaction as we're walking out of Bryant-Denny on Saturday?
I mean, I think it's kind of what you'll hit on, probably anything with quarterbacks, but like really anything, just because this is the first time we've gotten to see them. I feel like there's always like a newcomer, whether it's a freshman or transfer, overreaction of like, oh, wow, this guy's awesome. Like he's going to be the savior of our team, or like this guy sucked because he dropped one pass. Like it's just spring games are, I feel like, right for overreaction. And even like, some of the clips we put out yesterday on the BamaCentral YouTube or on our Twitters, and you have people replying, and I'm like, how could you even see like who? Oh my gosh, Keelan, that was a beautiful throw. And it's like, could you really even tell that was him? Like in my, I guess people can, but it's just like the overreactions you see like on people's tweets across the beat from practice yesterday of that guy's awesome. And it's like, it was a 3-second clip against no defense, Now there will be supposedly offense first defense this Saturday, but I think people will want to jump to conclusions about the quarterback battle for sure. And then I think a setting like this is just perfect for overreactions all around.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were out there for like 8 minutes, Theo. And if you weren't focused on one specific thing, you get overwhelmed. And so it's like, do I really want to draw conclusions off the offensive line drills? I mean, Nick Brooks, we talked about it yesterday, heavy hands. But outside of that, okay, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We're hanging out with Katie Windham. You follow her at Katie Windham _ leading all of our writing and coverage at BamaCentral.com. Katie, we're bringing you on really to help us talk about softball, but I do have a voicemail for you that I've been holding for the last couple of days. Everett Osmer called just after Alabama hired its new women's basketball coach. So here is a couple questions about the women's basketball, and really we want to honor our voicemails. You can call the voicemail line at 205-462-7340, extension 800. Everett's got a question or two for Katie Windham.
This is Everett from Marion. I absolutely love BamaCentral. And I got a question for Katie. I know that, how do you compare Coach Love to the other women's basketball coaches? And thank you so much for everything that y'all do for us fans, and I look forward to hearing from y'all. Thank you. And how do y'all think, and follow-up question, how do y'all think the football team will do in the upcoming year? Okay, thank you, and roll tide.
There we go. Everett Osmer asking Katie your opinion on the new women's basketball coach.
Yeah, I don't know if he means like in comparison to other women's basketball coaches around the SEC and country, or comparison to maybe some of the past hires they've had. It's hard to know because she's never been a head coach before. And that was one of the first things I asked Greg Byrne is, why did you feel comfortable going and getting somebody that has no head coaching experience? And he said, a lot of my best hires ever, not to brag, have been assistants. He talked about Dan Mullen at Mississippi State, ended up being their winningest head coach. He talked about some other people at different stops. He talked about Ashley Johnson with gymnastics here. She's kind of an unknown at this point. I think there's some intrigue and excitement there. She's obviously has a lot of experience at Alabama. She was a recruiting coordinator, I think, and then at Oklahoma, she was an assistant. But I think she has a lot of experience with the recruitment and the current state of women's basketball with NIL and things like that and those type of deals, which I think is good for Alabama. I think maybe she can be kind of creative with the budget she has. So I'm kind of excited to see what she's able to do. And yeah, I don't know, a ton about her or how it's going to work out, but the assistant hires have worked out good for Greg Byrne. And I don't think they were going to go make some super big splashy hire based on how, I mean, Christy Curry left to go to a group of 5 school because probably she wasn't getting the resources as investments here. So would it have made sense for them to go hire a coach that they were going to have to pay a lot of money? Probably not. So I think it's a good hire, and we'll kind of see where things go from here.
Yeah, following up on women's, I mean, you've lost almost all your production. Ace Austin is returning, but that's about it for this roster. And at least it's not Tennessee where there's literally nobody on the roster. But just how do you go about even trying to rebuild when you're in such a stacked conference and you have like nothing right now? Like, how do you even start that process in this sport?
I mean, it's really not that different than some schools that don't have coaching changes. I mean, Michigan just won a national title on the men's side with all 5 transfers starting. So it's just kind of the way things are. It's the same thing with men. I mean, you look at the guys that are leaving so far: Taylor Ball-Bowen, Aiden Sherrill. Aiden Sherrill was literally a starter. Taylor Ball-Bowen, good bench player, which I'm sure he'd like to be a starter somewhere else. But it's like guys that got significant action and are leaving. Nate's going to have to rebuild with recruits and transfers. And I think it's going to be the same thing for Pauline Love, where you're going to have to go get some people from the portal that can start right away, that hopefully have, Power 4 experience, maybe some with SEC experience, maybe people she's coached in the past at different stops, and then you just kind of rebuild from there. It's almost kind of the state. It used to just be the state of college athletics when there was a coaching change. A lot of people are going to leave, and it's almost like that's just how it is now. Like, I've seen some really interesting discourse on Twitter the last couple of days about the portal really in all sports. Just when you look at people that it was like a tweet that was like bench player portal, starter portal, like 15 points a game portal, 2 points a game. It's like how just basically everyone is trying to get a bigger piece of the pie. It's kind of like the grass is always greener. It's like, even if it seems like they had a great situation wherever they are, there's more. And so it's understandable when people leave on the coaching change. Like, you were recruited by a certain head coach and you were committed to them and you wanted to play for them, and they left. And so you're going to go explore different opportunities. I'm not saying that these girls are doing, trying to find greener pastures. It just maybe need a fresh start. But, like I said earlier, I think Pauline Love is pretty experienced in today's recruiting landscape. So I think she'll be able to put together a decent roster. And she and Greg Byrne kind of talked about, like, when they were asked about year 1 expectations, that like they want to kind of keep the program where it's at. Like, they're not, which would be an NCAA tournament appearance. Like, they're not looking to have this major drop off. It's not like Christy left the cupboard bare, the program in a terrible state. So we'll kind of see what she's able to do.
Yeah, Alabama's officially down to 2 players on the roster. Just looked at that. A lot of rebuilding to do.
Katie, as we talk about this rebuilding, one of the comments from Greg Byrne at Coach Love's introduction was about the budgets and the allocation and the resources given to women's college basketball. He kind of pushed back on a narrative that Alabama is not supporting the women's basketball program at an adequate level. What did you make of his? It wasn't really like spicy or anything, but it was just a statement of, "Hey, we are supporting this program." Do you think that the administration is supporting the program at an adequate level, or what did you make of his comments?
Well, his comment from the podium did seem a little like spicy, of like, there's so many false like narratives out there. And then when we asked him about that in the break-off session, he kind of changed his tune a little bit, of like, not false narratives from the media, but from other coaches and agents out in college and women's college basketball, that Alabama is slashing this, blah, 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 blah. I really don't think he's ever trying to defend like how much they spend on women's basketball. Do I think they could support it a little bit more? Sure. But I don't know. Like, I saw a bunch of outrage online, when Christy left, and it's from people that I'm like, do you actually support women's basketball? Like, do you go to the games? Do you even watch the games? Like, do you give to the team? Because like, they're mad that she didn't have more monetary support from Alabama, but it's like, in today's landscape, if you're going to give more to these other sports, it's going to take away from men's basketball and football. And those are the 2 sports that make money and have the largest fan bases and that the most people care about. So could they like give it a little more? Yeah, but I don't think, women's basketball is ever going to be the priority for Alabama's athletic department. Not that they want it to be just a dumpster fire, because they don't. They want to win at everything, but I don't think it's going to be a top priority.
Well, we will see what Pauline Love does with the women's basketball program. You can follow it at BamaCentral.com. Exciting hire, maybe a refresh around the Coleman Coliseum. Speaking of Coleman Coliseum, Katie, let's spin you over into the next sport that you cover that just wrapped up. Alabama women's gymnastics finished 4th in the SEC and made it to the regional finals, losing to Utah, Minnesota, and UCLA out in Corvallis, Oregon. So made it to basically the Sweet 16, as you told us yesterday. We're starting off really, really well, then sort of kind of fell off toward in the latter stages of the season. Just kind of what did you make of this Alabama gymnastics season?
It's kind of a tough season to evaluate because there was a lot of highs and then there wasn't ever like a super low. Like they were one of 2 teams in the country all year to not go below 197, them in Oklahoma, who's number 1. And so it's like, so on paper, those numbers sound like, wow, this should have been like a really great year. And it should have been, but it really ended pretty disappointing. You start out the year with a program record for highest score in an opening meet. You're like, wow, or was that just a fluke? And then they kind of keep it up. They keep building. They hit that 197.95 mark in the middle of the season against Auburn and Arkansas. And then it's kind of just been a descent down ever since. And so I kind of thought when they were kind of in this, what seemed like a downward slope, you know, maybe when postseason happens, things will kind of click and it'll go back up. And it just didn't. They had, you know, some of their lowest scores of the year at the end of the year. And I think part of that, there's a lot of stuff that probably y'all have never seen, that because I cover gymnastics, I get stuff from the Gymternet on Twitter that's just a lot of discourse about gymnastics. And there's a lot of people that think Alabama was underscored. And I would agree. It's hard to tell watching on the couch on the TV and the angles they show. But when you see Alabama's routines relative to other people and their scores compared to Alabama's, and you know Alabama has the same level of difficulty, it is a little hard to reconcile some of their scores sometimes. But even then, they made enough mistakes that even if they were scored properly on some routines, I still don't think they would have advanced. So I think when you look back on this season, like I said, you had some good things. You set some program records. You had an SEC Freshman of the Year, Nazarea Rockbar, for the first time in over 20 years. I think since like 2001, the first time that Alabama had that. So on that team, there is a lot coming back. Gymnastics is not as portal heavy of a sport unless you truly did not ever compete, which there's a couple people on the team, I believe, that didn't, and Ashley would say that they were injured. I could see those people leaving, but other than that, like, gymnastics is not, in general, a sport where they're hopping around all the time. So Alabama should have a ton coming back next year. There's a lot of positive momentum going into the future, but I think you have to look back on this season. I kind of wonder what went wrong. How did they end up? They were top 3 in the nation scoring wise basically all year long, and then you miss out on nationals. And so kind of, is it something that you peaked too early and you need to recalibrate how you train and, you know, when you're going all out, or was it just kind of a couple of bad meets in a row? And even that, you have to look back, and is that something that you need to shift your mental focus or your whatever it is, like your approach and how you go into postseason? Because I really thought, okay, maybe they have not been doing great, but this is the time that it clicks. And kind of the biggest issue all year was really the vault. Alabama has 6 10-0 start values, which that's probably sounds like something that's pretty obvious, but most teams don't on vault. They'll have a couple 10-0 start values, but not the whole lineup. And Alabama has more than 6 people that can do it, but you can only compete 6. The problem is they very rarely stuck them. So it doesn't really matter if you're starting from a 10 if you can't get the stick, because vault, like, it's one thing. Like, you're running down, you're doing your vault, and that's the whole routine. So there's like one, you know, there's very few things for them to judge you on. Your form in the air.
My neck, you know.
So that was their biggest issue. A lot of people are saying they need to get a new vault coach. I doubt that will happen. I think there just needs to be a different level of execution. And I think the program's in a good place moving forward. But I think if they have a disappointing postseason next year, I think there will be some questions raised.
Katie, what are the average, what are the percentage of people that say Alabama needs a new vault coach that can also do a somersault?
Probably like 12.
Because I don't know if I can do a somersault anymore. So I'm not downing the people because I don't have an ounce of athleticism either right now. But man, those ladies are really something else. Fine. See, what do you think? B plus for having such good scores, but then trailing off at the end.
Yeah, I'd probably say B because it's the regular season. You would probably give an A, but the way the year ended, because they were in the evening session, the SECs, which the top 4 teams are. And I mean, the SEC had the top 4 teams in the nation, but they finished 4th at SECs and weren't really ever that competitive in that meet. And then at regionals, they weren't ever really that competitive. And so it's kind of a disappointing end. So yeah, I'd say B is kind of the ceiling for what you can give this past season.
Well, we will see how Ashley Johnson progresses next year, but B, not so bad. Katie Windham, Everett Osmer saying we need a Bama-Central tailgate. We'll see if Chris wants to get a tailgate going, but if there is a tailgate, Theo, what are you bringing? What's your specialty? Are you bringing a big old pan of wings? Are you like a buffalo chicken dip kind of a play? Well, what are you contributing, Theo, to the Bama-Central tailgate? Are you cookies, like just a big old tray of cookies? You got to contribute something. What's your move?
I've got a couple dishes I can do really well, and I think I'll contribute some chicken parm. I can make it easy. I can make it in bulk. I can make it well. I've got the recipe. Bringing chicken parm for everyone at the tailgate.
Sounds like a plan. So we do need
a tailgate. How do you eat that at a tailgate?
Sandwiches.
Okay.
Like you throw them on sandwiches, like pre-packed up. We'd bring them to MetLife all the time for tailgates growing up.
There we go, Katie. You got a tailgating specialty. If Chris creates a tailgate for everyone.
Yeah, I would probably make some sausage rotel dip and some sort of dessert. Probably, yeah, just some cookies.
Ooh, we are getting close to lunchtime. Everett, we'll talk to Chris about that. I would say unlikely because that's a big work. Saturdays are a pretty big work day for at least the 3 of us, but maybe we'll see. Maybe that would be a great idea. We're hanging out with Katie Windham, lead writer for BamaCentral.com. You follow her at Katie Windham _. And Katie, speaking of starting off really well and continuing so far, Alabama softball has really been on fire, especially this weekend, beating number 1 Texas. The softball ladies are now 36-3, 9-3 in conference play, and ranked number 1 overall. So all it took was some people questioning Patrick Murphy's ability to do the job, and now 2 years later, he's got his team at number 1. Just what? How did they do it? Home runs, 16 home runs for Brooke Wells. You've got 3 ladies with over 9 home runs, 16 for Brooke Wells, 12. Oh, I just had it 12 for Alexis Papillo, and 9 for Anna Roman. Just what do you make of these softball girls as they continue to be white hot?
Yeah, it's been really impressive. And I think obviously this past weekend, beating number 1 Texas, defending national champions, is the most impressive thing they've done so far this year. It kind of proved, if anyone was still questioning, is this team legit? Can they compete for a title? That they can compete with the best. Then they have now 6 top 10 wins, I think, 2 over Texas, 2 over Florida State, and 2 over Arkansas. And the Florida State wins from back early in the season just keep looking better and better. I think the Seminoles are on like a 20-plus game winning streak or something like that, which the ACC is not as competitive in softball, but still they're a really good team. They have the nation's batting leader who's hitting like 667 or something. It's crazy. But yeah, it's been a little bit of everything. The hitting has been so much better. There has been so much more power throughout the lineup, like you saw on in the rubber match on Saturday. Jenny Young hit a 3-run home run, and she's been down in the 8th spot for most of the time recently. So you have kind of power threats all throughout the lineup. And then the pitching with Jocelyn Brisky and Vic Moten has just been really good. Alabama has one of the best team ERAs in the nation. And then they've played. Murph always talks about 3 things going into a series. He'll talk about a good start from the starter in the circle. He'll talk about the timely hit. And then he'll talk about good defense. And this team has been good defensively so far. They've made very few errors. And when you're playing against teams like number 1 Texas and trying to pull off the upset, you can't give away outs. You can't give away runs. And they've played good team defense, which me saying upset just made me think. Somebody commented on our Facebook yesterday and said, is it like upset? They dominated 2 games. And I'm like, would you consider the number 5 team beating the number 1 team an upset? Because like I would. But anyway, that's
even if you win emphatically, you upset them.
right. Exactly. I'm like, the result doesn't change, or like the margin of victory doesn't change whether or not it was an upset. But anyway, yeah, it was a huge weekend at Rhodes, big crowds all around. The way they count the crowds at Rhodes is the same way they count the crowds at all the athletic events where it's tickets sold and not actual attendance. So it's a little bit deceiving because they said, which I wasn't there on Saturday, the last game. Henry Sklar was there for us. But based on what I saw on TV, they said that was the biggest crowd. To me, it looked like probably the smallest of the weekend. But overall, still great crowds at Rhodes. The Brickyard is packed, and it's always fun to be there in that type of environment because you really do not – there's basically one other school you can get an environment like that in college softball, and there's a couple others in the SEC like Arkansas that make it pretty packed as well. But it's always a fun time at Rhodes, and the crowd gets really behind it. Murph made a lot of smart coaching decisions this week, whether it was pitching or starting Kristen White on Saturday, or things just kind of seemed to work in his favor and have been working in this team's favor all year long, which has been exciting to watch. As somebody who has to cover the team, it's been a lot more enjoyable to cover, which I say that, and like, this is my 6th year covering the team. 3 of the last 5 years that I've covered them, they've ended up at the Women's College World Series. So it's not like things have been bad, but like, it is not as fun to cover or watch a game when the team can't score, because like every game is just coming down to the wire, it being a 2-1 game, 1-0, 3-2, whatever it is. And so like in game 2, when Alabama got down 4-0 in the past, that pretty much would have been game over, because like, there's no way this offense is going to score 5 runs. Like there's no way, like they can barely score 3 runs a game in SEC play. But Friday they get down 4-0, and then they end up winning 11-4. So, which they got helped. There's some tight zones this weekend. So they got help with some free passes, but they took advantage of it. And that's the difference in this team and the past teams, is that when the other team makes mistakes, whether it's errors or walks, this team takes advantage of it. And they're number 1 in the Softball America poll. They're number 3 in all the other major polls. So their ranking this week on ESPN will be number 3. But if they keep winning, they're number 1 in the RPI, and their metrics are really good. So if they stay on this trajectory, they could be the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament, which would be crazy. I would not have seen that coming at all coming into this year.
So with the success this season, I'll just ask Katie, what other questions does this softball team need to answer? Because I think we walked into the season thinking, well, we'll see if the offense is there. We need, you've wanted to see power out of Alabama over the last couple of years, and that was the biggest question. Well, that was answered. 18 home runs in the first weekend? There was an absurd amount of home runs in the first weekend, and they have just continued throughout the year. And then it was, well, do you have another pitcher outside of Jocelyn Brisky? Well, you might have 2 or 3 other young pitchers that have shown a lot of ability. What other questions remain for this team as you're looking at the back half of the year?
I think your biggest question at this point, based on where they are and what they've done, is like, how can they handle success? Because you look at their upcoming schedule, regular season schedule, and 3 of their remaining 4 series are against, you could argue, the worst 3 teams in the SEC, in Auburn, South Carolina, and Kentucky. South Carolina is probably a little bit better, but they're still in the bottom third of the SEC. So Auburn and Kentucky, I think, literally have the worst records. Auburn's probably tied with Ole Miss at 2-10 in SEC play. Kentucky's 1-11. So, those are really series. No, sweeping in the SEC is never easy, but those are series, especially if you're number 3 in the nation, number 1 in the nation, number 5, whatever, that you should sweep. And then they have the toughest series left is at Tennessee, who has kind of had a weird season where they were number 1 for most of the year, and then has kind of kept having some questionable losses. They lost the series to Ole Miss. They lost to Mississippi State. They've lost to South Carolina. So that's your toughest series left. So there's lots of wins out there on the board. So how do you handle success and keep doing what you're supposed to do with these type of opportunities? You keep building up that resume, keep stacking up wins so that you are a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament and in a really favorable position, have a good draw. Can you keep winning these games? You should, and hope Texas beats Oklahoma this weekend, and so that you're in a position to win the SEC regular season for the first time since 2019, which is crazy that it's been that long. But this team, based on what's left on the schedule, definitely has the potential to do that. So I think that's kind of the overarching question. And then I think there probably still are a little bit of pitching questions. I mean, Vic Moten and Brisky have been great, but Moten in SEC play has been a little more gettable. She has gotten lit up a little bit more. And I think this past weekend against Texas was huge for her in game 2, she gives up 3 runs, I think, in the first inning, 5 walks. Maybe it was only 2 runs. And then she comes back later in the game and shuts him down for the last 5 innings. So I think that was a huge game for her mentally of like, okay, I can do this against the best. I can do this when things aren't going my way. But I think behind them, you kind of have some question marks of if something goes wrong for either of them, like who do we have behind you? Palazzi has been okay. She obviously had the perfect game early in the year, but in SEC play, she's probably not an SEC caliber starter yet. I think she could probably get there in her career, but I think you're kind of your depth is a little thin behind Brisky and Moten in a big game. Like yesterday against who do they play? South Alabama. Palazzi started through 4 scoreless innings. That's great. But is she going to be able to throw 4 scoreless innings against an SEC team? Probably not. And so, but the thing is, you really only need 2 pitchers. So as long as Brisky and Moten are doing fine, stay uninjured, they should be fine. But I think ideally you would have somebody that you can count on a little bit more behind them. Brea Hodges, I don't think is ever really going to be, like, no disrespect to her, but like a player that they're ever going to count on coming out of the bullpen against SEC teams. And then Ailey Johnson started her career at LSU, came here, and then she's just been too inconsistent pretty much her whole time out of the bullpen that she can get outs against an SEC team, but like you don't really want to have to go to her. So I think the other biggest question would be pitching. And then kind of a minor question / a little subplot would be Audrey Vandegrift. Last year, she's top 3 for National Freshman of the Year, has an outstanding freshman year, has the walk-off home run to win the series against Oklahoma, stole 50 bases. And then this past weekend, she gets moved out of the leadoff spot. She gets moved down to the 6th hole, works pretty well in the series finale. Last night against South Alabama, she's in the 6th hole. Against South Alabama, strikes out twice. I don't think she got on base last night. So she is like, this team has been so good offensively without her. And I think if she can get back on track and be a consistent leadoff person, it really just takes this offense to another level. But it's kind of been like a season-long slump for her. And I say that she's still batting a little bit over 300, but it's just not what you would have expected. And let me see, I think she only has like 14 stolen bases. Last year, she was 50 of 58. This year, she's 8 of 12. So she's gotten caught stealing 4 times, and that doesn't even count the times that she's gotten called for leaving early. So I think she's just in a little bit of a sophomore slump, and if she can break out of that in this last half of the regular season and then in postseason, I think it'll really take this offense to the next level.
Looking at this team and just everything that's happened, what makes a successful season? Is it just you reach Oklahoma City, you're happy, or is there a higher ceiling now? What would make you happy at the end of the year?
The Alabama softball fan base is hard to please because Patrick Murphy took them all the way to the top in 2012. But it's, next year will be the 15th anniversary of that. You're getting farther and farther removed from that championship. And so I don't think it's championship or bust. And like I said, they've been to Oklahoma City 3 of the 5 years I've covered them. But really the only year they were competitive or that you thought they actually had a shot of winning the title was in 2021. The year of Montana Fouts' perfect game. They make the semifinals and then lose 2 crushing games to Florida State. I think you have to make Oklahoma City and then actually be one of the teams that's in the mix for the title, make it to the semifinals. I think really a big thing for this program would be either winning the SEC tournament or the SEC regular season. Haven't won the regular season since 2019, the tournament since 2021. Their last couple tournaments have been not great. I think a couple years ago, I think 2022 was the first time they ever lost, went winless the SEC tournament. Then 2024, they lost their first game to LSU as well. I think last year they won 1 game and then I think lost their second game. So I think if you have and it's going to be hard to win the regular season because Oklahoma only has one loss. They do play Texas this weekend. So some of that is out of your control. But, for some fans, it's going to be national championship or bust, and they're not going to be happy with anything less. And they're going to criticize Murph and say he's terrible for never winning another national title. But, he's one of very few active head coaches that has a national title. It's obviously a hard thing to do. But I think just this regular season alone has re-energize the fan base for what this program can be. It was kind of interesting yesterday when I was going through past polls to see the last time they were this high, and it was basically 2022 their preseason number 2, which I really did not remember that, which makes sense because they're coming off a great year in 2021, and then 2022 ended up being the first year they did not make it to supers. So it was a big disappointment. This is the first time since the 2021 season that really they have been a top 5 team. And so I think in order for it to be a success, I think Oklahoma City's the baseline. This team does that more years than not anyway, which just shows how successful this program is under Patrick Murphy. But I think you have to be one of those teams in the mix for national title. And then if you could win one of the 2 SEC titles, I think that would make a lot of people happy as well.
We're hanging out with Katie Windham. You follow her at Katie Windham _. We've been talking about all kinds of athletics, women's athletics, men's athletics, every athletic team under the sun over at the Capstone. Make sure you check out Crimson Flame on all your podcast platforms and right here on the BamaCentral YouTube channel, where Katie brings you weekly conversations covering all things Alabama athletics, specifically covering women's athletics with Crimson Flame. We appreciate her hanging out with us at breaking down the softball, the gymnastics, the women's basketball, getting into some spring football as well. Katie, let's get out of here in just a moment with 1 or 2 more football questions. But first, I want to tell everybody about Purple Turtle Roofing. Purple Turtle Roofing sponsors the program. At Purple Turtle Roofing, we're not just another contractor. We're your neighbor and your advocate when it comes to protecting your home or business. With years of hands-on experience, top-tier certification, and a commitment to excellence, we've built a reputation as Alabama's go-to roofing solution. We specialize in residential roofing, commercial roofing, emergency storm repairs, full-on roof replacements, insurance claim support, and more. Check them out online today at roofturtle.com for all the products and services. You can see what they can do for your metal roof, for your shingle roof. It doesn't matter either style of roof you've got. They'll come out, give you a free roof inspection. Make sure you don't have any screws loose on that metal roof or any broken shingles on that shingle roof. You can check them out at roofturtle.com. Roofing with heart, built to last. Purple Turtle Roofing. All right, Katie Windham, we started the conversation with A-Day, so we should probably end the conversation with A-Day. And we started talking about quarterbacks and kind of the big questions. But as you said at the very beginning of your time with us today, this has been a kind of difficult spring to get to know the team and understand what's going on with Alabama football. So with that lens, what transfer, you went out and got 6 or 7 offensive linemen. You went out and got 3 or 4 defensive linemen. You got a pretty snazzy linebacker from Virginia Tech, a nice wide receiver out of NC State. So you got lots of transfers on this team, lots of transfers that look to be making an impact or should be making an impact in 2026. Which transfer are you most interested in seeing in full pads, 100% full go? We want to see which transfer play on A-Day.
I think it's offensively, it's Noah Rogers, the wide receiver from NC State. It seemed like, granted, little short snippet of practice we get to see that I think he's going to be one of your starters at wide receiver. So kind of to see him in action, what kind of plays can he make in 8A? And then defensively, y'all both know this. Whenever we talk to players, when you try and ask them, who's standing out? Oh, everyone looks great. But I feel like actually when we've asked some of them about new players or transfers, 2 names have actually come out on the defensive side, and it's Tompkins from USC and Desmond Umeozulu. I'll have his name.
You got it. You know
okay, by the season. I need to work on the names, which I'll have them by fall. But their names have come up, so I'll be interested to see how they look. Do they look the part? I mean, obviously, Umeozulu has already played in the SEC before. Tompkins was at USC, which is, a football powerhouse, and now in the Big Ten. So I'm sure they already have the frame for an SEC Alabama caliber player. So those are kind of the defensive guys I have an eye on this weekend.
Oh, same question.
Oh yeah, feel free. Yeah, jump in. I've been leaving you on the corner over there. I'm sorry.
No, sorry. I wasn't sure where we were going there. But what do you think about just the idea of these overreactions? I know we basically talked about it earlier, but what I was saying earlier with the QBs was that I think that Austin Mack's path to quote unquote winning 8A in the eyes of the public comes down to Keelan Russell not being sharp enough. Like I almost feel like Keelan would need to play poorly for Austin to be viewed better. What do you think the perception of those two guys will be after Saturday's game scrimmage?
I think the perception coming in is that like Keelan Russell is already the fan favorite. Like it seems like the majority of people online are already giving him the job and want him to have the job. And I think we'll be disappointed if Austin Mack wins the job, even though if Austin Mack wins, that means the coaches think he is the better quarterback or will give Alabama the better chance to win. Like they're not in this day of college sports, they're not going to play somebody just because like they don't want to hurt their feelings or they're trying to keep them. Like if Austin Mack wins because they think he's best for the job. So I think your assessment is good, Theo, that, people will be looking for Austin Mack to do things wrong and looking for Keelan Russell to do things right. And so I agree that it will have to be Keelan making mistakes in order for them to be like, wow, Austin Mack is the guy, which, really after like in a spring scrimmage, we're not going to know after the Saturday. I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Kalen comes in there in our post game and says, X is the guy. I don't see that happening though. So I think people will just kind of draw their own conclusions from Saturday. And I think most are naturally leaning towards Keelan Russell just because of how highly rated he was. And that makes sense. And Austin Mack's been in college for a couple years, hasn't started. And I think that's also a perception people have of if somebody's been here and hasn't been able to beat out other people, well, then he's bad. Well, you look at Ty Simpson last year. He was also in the program for a couple years, didn't start, and then had a really good year for most of the year until he had some injuries. So just because somebody hasn't started doesn't necessarily mean they're not good. But, those people probably aren't even listening to me right now anyway. So,
well, everyone's listening to you, Katie. You follow her at Katie Windham _. Read all her coverage right there at BamaCentral.com. The last thing I've got for you is outside of quarterback, what is whether it be a transfer, whether it be a position group, whether it be what is the biggest thing that you're looking for this 8A? We're going to be in Bryant-Denny Stadium this Saturday, whether it be defensively tackling. I mean, tackling kind of tough to find in 8A. There'll be some tackling, but there'll also be some tapping the quarterbacks, lots of pass rush. LT Overton special. Get back there and tap the quarterback for sack. Outside of the quarterback play, what is the big thing that you're going to be paying attention to?
I think the offensive line and can they actually run the ball, which like granted, this is a scrimmage and, you're going against your own defense, but that was the most disappointing thing last year. I've said like a million times throughout this spring, not always necessarily publicly, but like, in my opinion, like the running game cannot be worse than it was last year. Like it basically can only go up. Like they almost hit rock bottom when you look at where they are ranked nationally in rushing, and that's just an Alabama program should never be there. And so do the running backs look a little better on Saturday? Does the offensive line look a little better on Saturday? Can they run the ball, or is it going to be kind of back to where we were last year? It's kind of like softball when the offense couldn't score. That's kind of almost what it was like watching Alabama try and run the ball last year. It's just like you knew if they ran the ball, it was going to be for no more than 2 yards, and there was a good chance it was going to be for no yards. So can they run the ball? And then defensively, I'll be interested to see what the inside linebackers look like. I think, Caleb Woodson from Virginia Tech is probably for sure going to be one of the transfers. One of the starters. And then kind of who has that second starting spot, and just whoever, it will be new faces. It was Deontay Lawson, Justin Jefferson, Nakai Hill-Green, Jahad Campbell for so long that, just to see somebody new will be interesting to see kind of who they plug in.
Well, we can't wait to do it on Saturday. It's going to be 8A midday. You'll be able to follow all the coverage at BamaCentral.com. Katie Windham _ on the Twitter machine. Theo Fernandez _ on the Twitter machine. I'll be at Joe Gaither 6. We'll have Hunter DeCiver in there as well. So we'll have all kinds of coverage of Alabama's 8A. Katie, I really appreciate you hanging out and joining us today, telling us about all the sports you cover over the Capstone.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And my Wi-Fi lasted the whole time this time. No cutouts.
There we go. You need to give a gold star to your internet provider. We appreciate that, and we appreciate when all the technology works well.
For sure.
Absolutely. It's Katie Windham joining us today. We appreciate her hanging out. Make sure you follow her at Katie Windham _ on the Twitter machine, and check out Crimson Flame wherever you get your podcasts. We had a lot of fun with you guys today. You know, as we were talking, Theo, I'm thinking to myself, we need to check in on what Henry Oscolar is doing. Maybe he wants to join us on Friday to do a little Football Friday 8A edition. We'll see what he's up to. We'll see if he's got any free time on Friday. You got any other thoughts today? I mean, baseball, big win. Anything you need to get out? I mean, you smacked the heck out of.
Yeah, I did just think on baseball, we got to talk about the arrival of Eric Hines.
There you go. Tuscaloosa's own ACA, a great Patriot.
Eric Hines goes 3 for 3. The only time he didn't get a hit was because the pitcher hit him with a pitch. On base every time he went to the plate, and then finally, first home run at Sewell Thomas Stadium. Man, that place exploded. That place, it was a good crowd for a midweek, but when he hit that ball, it felt like a weekend.
Is Eric Hines poised to fill the gap that Justin LeBron will be leaving at the end of the year? I mean, he's going to be leaving, going to the MLB. There's going to be a huge gap for premier marquee player. Is Eric Hines right now poised to step into that I am the marquee player at Alabama baseball?
As far as face of the program goes, yes. I think it'll be him and Upchurch. I mean, I think that's pretty set in stone. Like, those are big-time names who are already doing big-time things right away. People love Eric Hines, as they should. But it was just, like, it really was a taste of the future here at this game where you had Hines, and then you also had Chase Kroberger, one of the guys who, he was the top-rated player in the state of New Jersey. Not that that's a baseball powerhouse, but he was a legitimate recruit who passed up MLB money and comes out, and he had his first hit as well, which was also a home run. So he clears the wall as well. Like, it was just a fun day at the Joe. And Eric Hines, I think, is going to be just about an everyday player for this team going forward. I predicted it back at the end of February. I said he'd be in the lineup by the end of March. So it just looks like I was 1 week off on that because he played the last game against Oklahoma, and I think we are going to see him. How do you take him out of the lineup right now? I think is what it's going to come down to. And even like his at-bats where he flies out, man, he is killing these baseballs. He is getting them into the outfield just about every time, and he swings with pure anger directed at that baseball. And very few players on the lineup have the potential to go deep on any given at-bat the way that he does.
Oh, super, super exciting. Alabama baseball staying white hot. Man, both the diamond sports are just incredible right now.
Fun spring here in Tuscaloosa.
It has been a fun spring, and it's going to be a fun rest of the week. Are you familiar with the Beast? Are you an Athletic subscriber? Or at one point, maybe sometime?
Vaguely familiar with the Beast.
Dane Brugler put out the Beast this morning, and so tomorrow that's what I want to do. I want to look at all the Alabama players in the Beast. If you're not familiar with the Beast, it is basically the only thing that Dane Brugler does for the Athletic. And when you hear only thing, you might think small, but it is like a 500-page draft guide every year of all the prospects. And so there will be a write-up for every Alabama player that is in the NFL draft this year. Caden Proctor, Ty Simpson, LT Overton, all those guys. Damani Jackson will read what they had to say, what he found out. Usually the Beast has a really nice background on players, as maybe more of a background than many people are familiar with, and then it has strengths and weaknesses and fits and kind of what kind of a team they should be looking for. The Beast is a great piece of literature, and I'll probably be spending the rest of the day reading the Beast, looking for future Chicago Bears, and hoping that all the Alabama players get drafted into good situations so they make lots of money and have great careers. We'll talk about what the Beast says yesterday. We'll talk about you see Peter Schrager's mock draft yesterday morning?
No, I did not.
Peter Schrager. Oh, and I can't say anything about. I love Peter Schrager. I think he's great. But Peter, please, Peter, Peter's got the Chicago Bears drafting Caden Proctor at 25. And I'm just sitting here praying that the Detroit Lions at 16 end up taking Caden Proctor instead. He did not, or 17. I think they're at 17. The Jets are at 16. He didn't, speaking of the Jets, he didn't have Ty Simpson in his first round. And he came out yesterday saying, I've done this the last few years. I remember people saying Will Levis, surefire first round pick, so I put him up there. I remember people saying Shadir Sanders, first round pick, so I put him up there. He said, I'm not going to be swayed by the Ty Simpson stuff. My sources haven't told me first round pick. They didn't tell me Will Levis. They didn't tell me Shadir Sanders, but I bent and gave in to the masses on Will Levis and Shadir Sanders. I'm not going to bend to the masses on Ty Simpson until I hear from my sources with the team. So he does a double mock draft. He'll do one. He did one this week, and he'll do one like basically the week of the draft.
Well, you know what the problem with that take is, right?
Well, the Steelers don't want anybody to know that they're going to take Ty Simpson. The Jets don't want anybody to know that they're taking Ty Simpson, because then they'll have to trade up even higher.
Yes, that's part of it. But then the other part is that Ty Simpson is the clear number 2 QB.
Sure.
Those guys had a lot of other players in the mix. The conversation this year isn't, will it be Ty Simpson or X other quarterback? It's, will the number 2 quarterback go in the first round? And the answer to that question is almost overwhelmingly yes.
So we'll see. Peter Schrager says no Ty Simpson in the first round, but he'll have another updated mock draft in a couple of weeks. We'll talk about the beast tomorrow. We'll see what Dane Brugler has found out for the strengths and weaknesses for Ty Simpson. We'll let you kind of. Do you have? If you don't, I'll send it to you. Do you have the Athletic?
No, I used to. I just stopped paying for it, but I would love.
Yeah, I'll send you what they say today, so you can be prepared for that tomorrow. We'll talk about the Beast. We'll talk about A-Day. We'll take your voicemails at 205-462-7340, extension 800. I appreciate Everett for jumping in and joining us. We had Keith Connell in the comments. We also had Cam Metzger in the comments, so appreciate a lot of. Cam Metzger says maybe we can live stream A-Day. I was thinking about filming it just to have it back for reference point.
I was planning on getting some clips and stuff, especially if we're going to be lower down, right?
Yeah, we're going to have to find out what the rules are, because we do want to abide by the rules. But I do think that there will be some film of A-Day somehow, some way.
Cam, we'll fill you in as best we can on the website, right? We'll write vivid imagery and words for you to feel like you were there.
Absolutely.
That's what we try to do.
That's exactly right. We appreciate Purple Turtle Roofing for sponsoring the program. We appreciate Derek Daniels, State Farm Insurance, for hosting the show. We appreciate everybody who shares the show with their friends, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Spotify, the BamaCentral YouTube channel, or even the Facebook page. We'll talk to you again tomorrow right here on the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral, BamaCentral.com.
Thanks for joining us on today's edition of the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral. Keep up with Joe on all his social media pages at Joe Gaither6. Subscribe, rate, and review the show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and be sure to read us daily at BamaCentral.com.